Blood doesn't come off marble easily. Elio Vale learned that 3 months ago, the first night he scrubbed these floors. The executive tower stayed empty after midnight. 37 floors of glass and steel that belonged to men who never cleaned their own messes. Tonight, the stain near the elevator spread wider than his hand. Dark, fresh enough to smell like copper and fear. His ribs ached when he bent down. The bruise there, for days old, shaped like knuckles, pressed against his uniform every time he moved. Elio kept his breathing shallow. Pain was easier to hide when you didn't let air push against it. The mop handle felt heavier than it should. He worked in silence. No music, no distractions. Just the wet drag of fabric against stone and the hum of fluorescent lights that made everything look sick and blue. His gloves covered the marks on his wrists. The high collar of his jacket hid the shadows blooming across his collarbone. His split lip. 2 days healing he'd blamed on tripping over a bucket. Clumsy Omega. That's what he'd told the day shift supervisor when she asked. She didn't ask twice. Nobody ever did. Elio's scent sat muted beneath layers of suppression spray, chemical and wrong, like trying to cover smoke with perfume. His body wanted to panic, wanted to flood the air with distress signals that would make any decent alpha step in and ask questions. But decent alphas didn't work in buildings like this. And omegas who broadcast fear didn't keep their jobs. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. The elevator chimed. Elio froze. Nobody used the executive floors this late. Security made rounds at 11 and 3. It was midnight. The cleaning crew worked alone for a reason. No witnesses, no complaints. No one to notice when someone stayed later than their shift required. Footsteps echoed across the lobby. Not security boots, dress shoes. Expensive ones that didn't scuff or squeak. They moved with the kind of confidence that came from owning the ground you walked on. Elio kept his head down. His hands tightened around the mop. His shoulders curled inward without permission, a response his body learned before his mind could stop it. When alphas walked past, you made yourself smaller. You apologized for taking up space. You survived. The footsteps stopped. 10 feet away, maybe less. Elio didn't look up. Couldn't. His pulse hammered against the bruise on his throat, the one hidden under his collar, the one that throbbed every time his heart beat too fast. Silence stretched, the kind that meant someone was staring, noticing, deciding. Elio's sense spiked despite the suppressants. Just a flicker of distress, barely there, but enough. Enough for an alpha to smell if they were paying attention. And whoever stood behind him was definitely paying attention. You work here often? The voice was quiet, controlled. The kind of calm that felt more dangerous than shouting because it meant the person using it didn't need to raise their voice to be obeyed. Elio's throat closed. He nodded. Look at me. It wasn't a request. Elio lifted his head slowly, still gripping the mop like it could protect him. His eyes tracked up past black dress shoes, tailored slacks, a charcoal suit jacket that probably cost more than Elio made in 6 months. Then the face. Rhett Calderon. Everyone in Havenport knew that face. It showed up in business magazines, society pages, federal investigations that went nowhere. He wasn't the kind of alpha who smiled for cameras or shook hands at charity galas. He was the kind who owned half the city's ports and never had to prove it. Mafia king, corporate ghost. The man whose silence ended careers and whose anger erased families from public record. And he was staring directly at Elio's split lip. Rhett's gaze moved slow, cataloging. The shadows under Elio's eyes, the too careful way he stood, the gloves that didn't match the uniform, the faint tremor in his hands. What's your name? Elio's mouth opened. Nothing came out. His brain screamed at him to answer, to be polite, to not make this worse. But his voice had stopped working the second he recognized who was asking. Rhett waited. He didn't repeat the question, didn't move closer. Just stood there with his hands in his pockets, expression unreadable, watching Elio fall apart in real time. Finally, Elio managed, Elio. Elio what? Vale. Rhett's eyes narrowed slightly, not angry, curious. like he was solving a puzzle Elio didn't know he'd presented. "You're here every night?" Elio nodded. "Alone?" Another nod. "And you clean executive floors?" It wasn't a question, but Elio answered anyway. "Yes, sir." The sir slipped out automatically. Trained response. Safer to be too polite than not polite enough. Rhett's jaw tightened. Just for a second, barely visible. But Elio saw it. Alphas didn't like weakness. They didn't like omegas who flinched and stammered and reeked of fear even through suppressants. This was it. He was going to lose his job. Lose the paycheck that kept Nico fed and medicated and safe. Lose the one thing keeping them both off the streets. "Someone hurt you." Elio's heart stopped. Not a question. A statement. Flat and certain, like Rhett already knew the answer and was just waiting to see if Elio would lie. I tripped," Elio said quickly. "I'm clumsy. I wasn't paying attention." "No." One word. Absolute. Elio's excuses died in his throat. Rhett took a single step closer. Not threatening. Not aggressive. Just close enough that Elio could smell him. Cedarwood and gunpowder. Alpha scent so controlled it barely registered, but strong enough to make Elio's instincts scream contradictions. "Run. Submit. Don't move. Apologize." "I'm going to ask you once," Rhett said quietly, "and I need you to understand that what you tell me matters." "Who hurt you?" Elio shook his head. Fast. Desperate. "Nobody. I'm fine. I need to finish cleaning." "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Stop apologizing." Elio's mouth snapped shut. Rhett studied him for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket. Elio flinched and pulled out a business card. Plain. White. Just a phone number printed in black ink. "When you're ready to tell the truth," Rhett said, holding it out, "call that number." Elio stared at the card like it might explode. "Take it." His hand moved on its own. Fingers numb. He took the card. The paper felt expensive. Heavy. Rhett turned to leave, then stopped. "Elio Vale," he said without looking back. "I'm going to be watching." The elevator doors closed behind him. Elio stood frozen in the empty lobby, blood-stained mop in one hand, Rhett Calderon's phone number in the other, and the terrible certainty sinking through his chest that nothing was going to be the same after tonight. Because when men like Rhett Calderon started paying attention, people disappeared. What would you do if the most dangerous man in the city just noticed you exist? Rhett didn't sleep that night. He sat in his penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Havenport's Port District, and ran background checks. Elio Vale, 21, registered Omega, no pack affiliation, no emergency contacts except a younger sibling listed as dependent. Orphaned at 16 when his parents' pack collapsed during a corporate raid. Custody of his brother granted by the state. Worked 3 jobs before landing the cleaning position at Calderon Tower. Clean record. No arrests. No flags. Invisible. Exactly the kind of Omega predators targeted. Rhett's fingers stilled on the keyboard. The bruises on Elio's face weren't accidental. The split lip wasn't clumsiness. And the way he'd flinched when Rhett reached for his pocket, that was learned behavior. Someone had trained Elio to expect violence. The question was who, and how long it had been happening under Rhett's roof without him noticing. He pulled up security footage. 30 days of late-night recordings. Fast-forwarded through hours of empty hallways and locked offices until he found what he was looking for. Elio appeared on screen around 11 p.m. most nights. Alone. Moving through floors methodically, bathrooms, conference rooms, executive suites. He worked fast, efficient, never lingered, never touched anything he wasn't supposed to. Perfect employee. Too perfect. Rhett slowed the footage, watched closer. There, a moment when Elio passed a particular office on the 33rd floor. His posture changed, shoulders hunched, pace quickened, eyes locked on the floor. Marrow Huxley's office. Rhett leaned back in his chair. Huxley, senior executive, non-Mafia affiliate with political connections that made him untouchable through normal channels. Loud alpha, the kind who threw his weight around in meetings and expected people to laugh at his jokes. Rhett had never liked him, but tolerating assholes was part of running an empire. You didn't survive 3 decades in organized crime by making enemies over personality conflicts, unless they were hurting people who couldn't fight back. Then it became personal. Rhett forwarded through more footage, found another clip, this one from 2 weeks ago. Elio cleaning the 33rd floor. Mero's office door opened. Elio's body language shifted immediately, frozen, then retreating. Mero stepped into frame, said something Rhett couldn't hear through silent footage. Elio shook his head. Mero grabbed his arm. The video quality wasn't good enough to show details, but Rhett didn't need details. He could read the scene perfectly. The way Elio tried to pull away, the way Mero's grip tightened, the way Elio stopped struggling and just stood there, head down, while Mero leaned close and said something that made Elio's whole body go rigid. Then Mero let go, walked away, left Elio standing alone in the hallway, looking like he wanted to disappear into the walls. Rhett's hands curled into fists. He'd seen enough. By morning, Rhett had a plan. Not loud, not obvious, just a few strategic adjustments to staffing schedules and security rotations. Changes that wouldn't raise flags with HR but would accomplish exactly what he needed. Elio's cleaning route got reassigned. Instead of working floors 20 through 35, he'd now handle 33 through 42, right past Rhett's office. Every single night. The first night of the new schedule, Elio showed up at 11:15 p.m. like clockwork. He hesitated when he saw the updated floor assignment sheet posted in the service elevator. Read it twice, looked confused, but he didn't question it. Omegas in his position didn't question anything. Rhett watched from his office. Door cracked, lights dimmed enough to see out without being obvious. Elio moved through the 39th floor carefully, checked over his shoulder more than necessary, kept his distance from closed doors, afraid of who might come out. At midnight, Rhett stepped into the hallway. Elio was cleaning the break room, didn't hear him approach, didn't notice Rhett standing in the doorway until the silence stretched too long and some instinct made him turn around. Their eyes met. Elio's sense spiked. Sharp and floral, distress cutting through suppressants like a knife. "Relax," Rhett said quietly. "I'm not here to fire you." That didn't help. Elio looked ready to bolt. His hands gripped the edge of the counter behind him hard enough that his knuckles went white. "Did you call the number I gave you?" Elio shook his head. "Why not?" "I don't." Elio's voice cracked. He tried again. "I don't need help. I'm fine." "You're not fine." "I am." "You're terrified right now. Your scent is screaming panic. Your hands are shaking. And you look like you haven't slept in days." Rhett kept his voice level. No judgment, just facts. "That's not fine." Elio's jaw clenched. "I can't lose this job." "You won't. You don't know that." "I own this building," Rhett said. "So yes, I do." Silence dropped between them like a weight. Elio stared at him, processing, trying to figure out if this was a trick, if powerful alphas ever helped without expecting something in return. They didn't. Everyone knew that. "Why do you care?" Elio finally asked, quiet, wary. Rhett considered the question. Honest answer? Because seeing someone hurt in his territory offended him on a level that had nothing to do with morality and everything to do with control. Because predators who operated under his roof made him look weak. Because power without accountability was chaos, and chaos got people killed. But that wasn't what Elio needed to hear. "Because you deserve better than whatever's happening to you," Rhett said instead. Elio's breath hitched. Not relief, confusion. Like the concept didn't make sense in any language he spoke. Before he could respond, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Heavy, familiar. Elio went rigid. Rhett turned. Mero Huxley rounded the corner, tablet in hand. Expensive suit rumpled like he'd been working late. He stopped when he saw them, eyes flicking between Rhett and Elio, calculating. "Mr. Calderon," Mero said smoothly. "Didn't expect to see you here this late." "I work when I work," Rhett replied, neutral, giving nothing away. Mero's gaze slid to Elio, lingered. Something ugly flickered across his face. Recognition, possession, warning before he smiled. Elio, still here? You should have finished this floor an hour ago. Elio's voice came out barely above a whisper. Sorry, sir. I'll hurry. See that you do. Mero walked past them into his office, closed the door. The second it clicked shut, Elio's legs nearly gave out. He caught himself on the counter, breathing too fast, eyes wide and glassy. Rhett didn't touch him, didn't move closer, just waited until Elio could hear him again. That's him, Rhett said quietly. Isn't it? Not a question. Elio didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because Rhett had just watched an Omega nearly collapse from fear at the sight of a man who should have been nothing more than a coworker, and that told him everything he needed to know. When a predator walks past his prey, the prey doesn't breathe until they're sure the danger has passed. What happens when the danger never leaves? The hallway stayed too quiet after Mero disappeared into his office. Elio couldn't move. His body had locked up the second those footsteps echoed around the corner. Muscle memory overriding logic, instinct screaming that freezing made you invisible even when it didn't. Rhett stood 3 feet away, not speaking, not pressing, just present in a way that made the air feel heavier. Elio forced himself to straighten. His hands shook when he let go of the counter. The cleaning cart sat 5 feet away. He needed to finish the floor, needed to leave before Mero came back out. Needed to stop standing here like a cornered animal while Rhett Calderon watched him fall apart. I should, Elio started. The office door opened. Mero stepped out. His expression had shifted. No more professional mask. Just irritation wrapped in alpha authority that filled the hallway like smoke. Elio, not a greeting, a summons. My office, now. Elio's stomach dropped. He's working, Rhett said, calm. Factual. Mero's eyes cut to him. This won't take long. Just need to discuss his cleaning schedule. Some supplies have been going missing from the executive storage. A lie, obvious, lazy, but it didn't matter if it was true. It mattered that Mero was a senior executive with political connections and Rhett was, despite owning the building, still bound by certain appearances when it came to internal corporate matters. I'll handle the supply inventory, Rhett said. Elio can finish his shift. With respect, Mr. Calderon, this is a staffing issue. I'd prefer to address it directly. Tension coiled through the space between them. 2 alphas, no middle ground. Elio's chest tightened. He knew how this played out. Mero would get what he wanted. He always did. And if Elio made it difficult, if he hid behind Rhett's protection like a coward, Mero would make him pay for it later. It's fine, Elio heard himself say, voice flat, dead. I can talk to him. Rhett's gaze snapped to him. Sharp, searching. Elio couldn't meet it. He stared at the floor instead and forced his feet to move toward Mero's office. Each step felt like walking into deep water. Mero held the door open, smiled. Won't take long. Elio stepped inside. The door closed behind him with a click that sounded too final. Mero didn't move toward his desk. He stayed by the door, blocking it. The office was small for an executive suite. Just a desk, 2 chairs, filing cabinets that probably held nothing important. 1 window overlooking the port. No cameras. There were never cameras in the places where bad things happened. You're getting bold, Mero said, voice low, controlled. The kind of quiet that made Elio's spine lock up. Talking to Calderon, drawing attention. I wasn't, Elio's voice cracked. He asked me questions. I couldn't ignore him. You could have kept your mouth shut. I did. Did you? Mero took a step closer. Elio backed up automatically, hit the desk. Nowhere else to go. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to make trouble. I'm not, I swear. I just want to work. Then work. Stop looking at people like a kick dog. Stop broadcasting distress every time someone walks past you. Stop making people ask questions. I'm trying. Try harder. Mero's hand shot out, grabbed Elio's arm. Same place he always grabbed. fingers digging into the bruise that hadn't healed from last week. Pain exploded up Elio's shoulder. He bit down on his lip to keep from making noise. Tasted blood. Fresh split on top of the old one. "You remember what happens if you talk," Mero said. "Not a threat. A reminder. You remember what happens to Nico if you decide to be stupid." Elio nodded. Fast. Desperate. "Say it." "I remember." "Good." Mero's grip tightened. Elio's vision blurred at the edges. Because Calderon's interest is temporary. Rich alphas get bored. They move on. But I don't. He shoved Elio backward. Elio caught himself on the desk. Barely. His arm throbbed where Mero had grabbed him. The bruise there would be darker tomorrow. Uglier. Harder to hide. "Get out," Mero said. "Finish your shift. And stay away from Calderon before you make me do something we'll both regret." Elio didn't wait for permission twice. He grabbed the door handle. Pulled. It didn't open. Mero leaned past him. Unlocked it manually. Breath hot against Elio's neck. "Remember," he whispered. "I know where you live." The door opened. Elio stumbled into the hallway. Empty. Rhett was gone. The floor stretched out quiet and fluorescent and endless. His legs shook when he walked back to the cleaning cart. His hands shook when he grabbed the mop handle. His whole body shook when he realized Mero was still watching from his office doorway, smiling, like this was a game he'd already won. Elio didn't look back. He pushed the cart toward the elevator, made it 3 steps before his knees buckled. He caught himself on the wall, pressed his forehead against cold concrete, breathed in, until his lungs remembered how. The elevator chimed behind him. Elio jerked upright, spun around. Rhett stepped out, took one look at Elio's face, his split lip bleeding again, his arm cradled against his chest, his scent pouring distress into the air like a broken pipe. Something in Rhett's expression went very, very still. What did he do? Not a question. A demand. Elio shook his head. "Nothing. We just talked." "You're bleeding." "I bit my lip. I do that when I'm nervous." "Show me your arm." "It's fine." "Elio." Rhett's voice dropped. Alpha command threaded through it. Not aggressive, not forceful, just absolute. "Show me." Elio's body moved before his brain could stop it. Conditioned response. When an alpha used that tone, you obeyed. He pulled back his sleeve. The bruise was dark purple. Fresh blood vessels broken beneath the skin. Perfect finger-shaped marks. Rhett stared at it for 3 seconds. Then he turned and walked toward Mero's office. "No." Elio grabbed his arm. "Please, don't." "Hill." "Hill what?" Rhett looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time since they'd met, Elio saw something other than control in his expression. Rage. Cold. Precise. Lethal. "Hill hurt Nico," Elio whispered. "My brother. He knows where we live." He said if I talked." Rhett went still. Not calm. Still. Like a predator deciding which direction to strike. "Go home," he said quietly. "What?" "Go home. Take your brother. Pack what you need. Someone will meet you there in 30 minutes. I can't. You can." Rhett's hand closed over Elio's shoulder. Gentle. Deliberate. "And you will. Because Mero Huxley just made a very serious mistake." "What are you going to do?" Rhett's expression didn't change. "What I should have done the first time I saw bruises on someone under my protection." He walked past Elio toward Mero's office. Knocked once. Didn't wait for an answer. Opened the door and stepped inside. The door closed behind him. Elio stood frozen in the hallway, heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs, listening to the silence stretch and stretch and stretch until a voice, Rhett's, too low to hear words. Then another voice, Mero's, louder, defensive. Then nothing. No shouting. No crashing. No sounds of violence. Just silence. Terrible, absolute silence. The door opened 2 minutes later. Rhett stepped out, straightened his jacket, looked at Elio. 30 minutes, he said. Go. Elio ran. What happens when a mafia king stops watching and starts acting? And what kind of justice comes without mercy? Elio's apartment was 20 minutes by bus when traffic was light. He made it in 12. Ran 3 blocks. Didn't stop when his lungs burned or his ribs screamed. Just kept moving because Rhett Calderon had told him to go home and pack, and someone was coming, and that meant something had changed. Something irreversible. Men like Rhett didn't make empty promises, which meant whatever happened in that office was bad enough that running was the safest option. The apartment building was old. 6 floors, broken elevator, hallways that smelled like mildew and someone's burnt dinner. Elio took the stairs 2 at a time, fumbled his keys, dropped them, picked them up with shaking hands. The lock clicked. He shoved the door open. Nico? The living room was dark except for the TV glow. His brother sat on the couch, 11 years old, too small for his age, wrapped in a blanket that used to be their mom's. He looked up when Elio came in, face pinched with worry that kids his age shouldn't have to carry. "You're home early," Nico said. "Did something happen?" "Everything happened. We need to pack," Elio said. Nico's eyes went wide. "Why? Where are we going?" "I don't know yet. Just get your stuff. Important things only. Clothes, your inhaler, schoolwork." "Elio." "Now, Nico. Please." Something in Elio's voice made Nico move. He dropped the blanket and ran to their shared bedroom. Elio could hear him pulling things out of drawers, moving fast, scared. Elio grabbed their emergency bag from the closet. The one he'd packed 6 months ago after the first time Mero grabbed him. The one he hoped he'd never need. Threw in documents, IDs, birth certificates, medical records, his mother's jewelry, the photo album, cash he'd been hiding under the floorboard. Not much. Enough to disappear for a few days if they had to. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Elio stared at it, hands frozen on the bag zipper. It buzzed again. He answered. "Elio Vale?" A woman's voice. Professional. Clipped. Not unkind. "Yes. Mr. Calderon sent me. I'm downstairs. Black car parked in front of your building. You have 5 minutes." The line went dead. Elio's heart hammered against his ribs. This was real. This was happening. He was leaving his apartment with his brother in the middle of the night because a mafia king told him to, and there was no going back from this. "Nico, let's go." His brother appeared in the doorway, backpack over one shoulder, inhaler clutched in his hand, eyes too big and too scared. "Are we in trouble?" Nico whispered. Elio crouched down, pulled him close. "No, we're safe. Promise. Someone's helping us." "Who?" "Someone powerful. Someone who can protect us." "From what?" Elio didn't answer. He grabbed the emergency bag, took Nico's hand, locked the apartment door behind them knowing they probably wouldn't come back. The car was exactly where the woman said it would be. Black, expensive, tinted windows. A woman in a suit stood beside the back door. Tall, alpha, professional security written in every line of her posture. "Get in," she said. Not mean, just efficient. Elio hesitated. "Mr. Calderon said you'd be nervous. He said to tell you." Mero Huxley is currently being escorted off Calderon property by federal investigators. He will not be returning, and your brother is now under protected custody. The words hit Elio like a freight train. Federal investigators. That meant evidence. Real evidence. The kind that destroyed careers and ended freedom. That meant Rhett hadn't just fired Mero. He'd burned him down. "Where are you taking us?" Elio asked. "Somewhere safe. Mr. Calderon will explain everything." Nico tugged on Elio's hand. "Can we trust her?" Elio looked at his brother, looked at the woman, looked at the apartment building behind them where they'd been barely surviving for 2 years. "Yeah," he said quietly. "We can." They got in the car. The drive took 15 minutes. Nico pressed his face against the window and watched the city lights blur past. Elio sat rigid beside him, hands clasped tight to keep them from shaking. The car pulled up to a building Elio recognized. Calderon Tower. But instead of the front entrance, they drove into an underground garage. Private access, the kind reserved for executives and people who needed to arrive without being seen. The woman led them to an elevator, pressed a button marked PH. Penthouse. Nico looked at Elio. Elio looked at the floor numbers climbing. The elevator opened into a hallway that looked nothing like the corporate floors below. Warm lighting, hardwood, artwork that probably cost more than Elio's entire life. Rhett stood at the end of the hall, still in his suit, expression unreadable. Hands in his pockets like this was a normal Tuesday and not the night he'd just detonated someone's entire existence. "Thank you, Miranda," he said to the woman. "That'll be all." She nodded and left. Rhett looked at Elio, then at Nico. His expression softened slightly when he saw the kid clutching his inhaler with white knuckles. "You must be Nico," Rhett said, voice gentler than Elio had ever heard it. Nico nodded. Didn't speak. "I know tonight has been confusing and frightening, but I need you to understand something very important." Rhett crouched down to Nico's eye level. "Nobody is going to hurt you or your brother again. Not while I'm watching. Do you believe me?" Nico looked at Elio. Elio nodded. "Okay," Nico whispered. Rhett stood, gestured down the hall. "There's a room set up for you. Private bathroom. Lock on the door if that makes you feel safer. Food in the kitchen. Anything you need, just ask." Nico didn't move, still holding Elio's hand. "It's okay," Elio said quietly. "Go look. I'll be right there." Nico hesitated, then nodded and walked slowly down the hall, peeking into rooms, taking in the space with wide, disbelieving eyes. The second he was out of earshot, Elio turned on Rhett. "What did you do? What needed to be done?" "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight." Rhett's voice was calm, final. Mero Huxley had evidence of financial crimes buried in his office files. Embezzlement, fraud, connections to offshore accounts that violated federal oversight. That evidence has now been discovered by the appropriate authorities. Elio stared at him. "You planted it. I ensured what was already there was found. That's the same thing." "Legally speaking, no, it's not." Elio's breath came faster. "He's going to know it was you. He's going to know I told you. He's not going to know anything except that his life as he knew it is over." Rhett's expression hardened. "And even if he does suspect, he can't do anything about it. He has no leverage, no protection, no allies who'll risk association with someone under federal investigation." "What about Nico? What if?" "Nico is safe. You're both safe. I've made sure of that." "How?" "Because I own this city. Simple. Absolute. True. And when I say someone is under my protection, that means something." Elio's legs gave out. He didn't fall, just sank slowly until he was sitting on the floor with his back against the wall. All the adrenaline that had been holding him together for the past hour drained out at once. Rhett didn't move, just watched him, waiting. "Why?" Elio finally asked, voice broken. "Why would you do this for me? You don't know me. I'm nobody. I'm just..." "You're not nobody," Rhett said quietly. "You're someone who survived something you shouldn't have had to survive. Someone who protected your brother at the cost of your own safety. Someone who kept showing up every night and doing your job even when you were terrified. That's not special. That's just survival." "Exactly." Rhett crouched down, met Elio's eyes. "Most people don't survive what you did. Most people break, or run, or stop fighting. You didn't." Elio's throat closed. "I'm going to ask you something," Rhett continued, "and I need you to answer honestly. Can you do that?" Elio nodded. "How long has Mero been hurting you?" 14 months. Rhett's jaw tightened. "Did he ever?" "No." Elio knew what he was asking. He wanted to. He threatened. But he never. I wouldn't let him. I fought back enough that it wasn't worth it for him. "That's why you're still." "Yeah." Silence dropped between them. Heavy. Significant. "Were there others?" Rhett asked. Elio looked away. I don't know their names, but I saw them. Other Omegas. Other people who looked like I did. They'd show up for a few weeks and then disappear. Did Mero work alone? No. Elio's hands curled into fists. There were others. Executives. Politicians. People with power who knew nobody would believe us if we talked. Rhett stood, pulled out his phone, typed something fast. What are you doing? Elio asked. Ending this. Rhett looked at him. Not just for you. For everyone who couldn't fight back. You can't take down an entire network. Watch me. When an Omega finally stops running and a Mafia king stops pretending not to see, what kind of war begins, and who survives it. The penthouse had 7 rooms, 3 bathrooms, and windows that overlooked a city Elio didn't recognize anymore. He stood in the guest room Rhett had assigned him. King bed, attached bathroom, lock on the door like promised. And tried to process the fact that 12 hours ago he was scrubbing blood off marble floors and now he was standing in a space bigger than his entire apartment. Nico was asleep in the next room, knocked out the second his head hit the pillow. The kind of exhausted sleep that came after too much fear and too much change. Elio couldn't sleep. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at his phone. 3 missed calls from the cleaning company's night supervisor. 2 texts asking where he was. 1 voicemail he didn't listen to. He'd lost his job. Obviously, disappearing mid-shift with the CEO's protection meant there was no going back to normal employment. No references, no clean exit. But he had Nico safe, had a roof over their heads, had distance from Mero's threats. That was more than he'd had yesterday. A soft knock on the door made him jump. It's me, Rhett's voice, quiet, respectful. Elio opened the door. Rhett stood in the hallway holding 2 mugs. Coffee. You look like you could use it. I don't think caffeine is going to help me sleep. Sleep isn't the goal right now. Staying functional is. Fair point. Elio took the mug, followed Rhett to the living room. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the port district lit up like a constellation. Ships moving through dark water. Cranes loading cargo that would disappear into the global supply chain by morning. Does it ever stop feeling surreal? Elio asked. Having this much power? No, Rhett said. You just get better at pretending it's normal. They sat in silence, drinking coffee that was too expensive to taste like anything Elio recognized. I need to tell you something, Rhett finally said, and you're not going to like it. Elio's stomach dropped. What? Mero wasn't working alone. You already told me that. But the network is bigger than I thought. Corporate executives, city officials, people with enough authority to make investigations disappear. How do you know? Because I've spent the last 6 hours pulling records, security footage, financial transactions, employment files. Rhett set his mug down. There's a pattern. Omegas hired into low visibility positions. No pack protection. No legal representation. They work for a few months and then vanish. New IDs, new cities, or sometimes just gone. Elio's hands tightened around his mug. How many? 17 that I can confirm. Probably more. The number hit like a physical blow. 17 people. 17 lives disrupted or destroyed or ended while powerful alphas covered their tracks and the system looked the other way. What are you going to do? Elio asked. I'm going to burn them all down, Rhett said, simply, like he was discussing dinner plans. But I need your help. My help? I'm nobody. I don't have evidence or connections or… You have your story, you have your experience, and you have the courage to say what happened out loud. Rhett met his eyes. That's more powerful than you think. Nobody's going to believe an Omega with no pack and no credentials. They will when I'm standing beside you. Elio stared at him. You'd do that? Publicly? Yes. Why? This could destroy your reputation, your business relationships, everything you've built. I built it on control, Rhett said. And control means nothing if I let predators operate under my authority. If I can't protect people in my own buildings, then I don't deserve the power I have. Something in Elio's chest cracked open. Not relief, something bigger, something that felt dangerously close to hope. "What do you need me to do?" he asked quietly. "Tell me names, faces, anyone you saw who was involved, anyone who looked the other way, anyone who knew and didn't stop it." Elio took a breath and started talking. He talked for 2 hours, gave Rhett everything. The executives who cornered him in empty hallways, the security guards who disappeared when Mero was around, the HR representative who smiled and shredded his complaint form while he watched, the other Omegas he'd seen with the same hollow eyes and the same careful silence. Rhett took notes, didn't interrupt, didn't react, just listened with an intensity that made Elio feel heard for the first time in 14 months. When Elio finally stopped talking, his throat was raw and his hands were shaking, and he felt empty in a way that was almost peaceful. "Thank you," Rhett said quietly. "What happens now? Now I make calls, pull in favors, ensure the right people see the right evidence. And if they don't care, then I make them care." Rhett's expression hardened. "There are consequences for ignoring things in my city. People just forgot that for a while." Elio believed him, because Rhett Calderon wasn't the kind of man who made threats he couldn't keep. "You should try to sleep," Rhett said. "Tomorrow's going to be difficult." "Why? What's tomorrow?" "Press conference. Federal building. I'm announcing a formal investigation into workplace exploitation and abuse within Calderon-affiliated companies." Rhett stood. "You don't have to be there, but if you want to stand up and let people see what survival looks like, I'll make sure you're protected." Elio's breath caught. Stand in front of cameras, in front of the city, in front of everyone who'd ignored him or dismissed him or told him to stay quiet, and tell the truth. "I'll think about it," Elio whispered. "That's all I'm asking." Rhett left him alone. Elio sat in the dark living room and watched the city lights shimmer through floor-to-ceiling windows and tried to imagine a version of tomorrow where he wasn't afraid anymore. Felt impossible. But so did everything that happened in the last 12 hours. And he was still here, still breathing, still fighting. Maybe that was enough. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. Elio almost didn't answer, but something made him. "Hello." Silence on the other end. Just breathing. Then a voice. Female. Young. Scared. "Is this Elio Vale?" "Yes. I heard what you did. I heard you got out." The voice shook. "Can you help me?" Elio's heart stopped. "Who is this?" "My name is Kiera. I work in the building. 3rd floor. I clean offices at night, and there's someone who he keeps. I don't know what to do." Elio closed his eyes. 17 confirmed cases. Now 18. "I can help you," he said quietly. "Where are you right now?" "I'm safe tonight. But tomorrow you call this number." Elio rattled off Rhett's direct line from memory. "Tell them Elio sent you. They'll get you somewhere safe. You promise?" "I promise." The line went quiet. Then, "Thank you." She hung up. Elio sat in the dark and realized something that made his chest ache and his hands stop shaking. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was fighting back. And he wasn't alone. When one voice breaks the silence, how many others find the courage to speak? And what happens when a mafia king turns their stories into weapons? The child's inhaler sat on the kitchen counter next to a glass of water Nico hadn't touched. Rhett watched him from the doorway. The kid had been awake for 20 minutes, moving through the penthouse like he expected the walls to collapse, checking locks, testing door handles, making sure his brother was still breathing in the next room. Survival instincts didn't shut off just because the threat disappeared. "You hungry?" Rhett asked. Nico jumped, spun around, relaxed slightly when he saw who it was. "I don't want to be trouble," Nico said quietly. "You're not trouble. You're 11. 11-year-olds need breakfast. Elio usually makes. Elio's still asleep. And he's going to stay asleep because last night was hard and he needs rest." Rhett stepped into the kitchen, opened the fridge. "Eggs okay?" Nico nodded. Rhett cooked in silence. Scrambled eggs, toast, Orange juice. Set it in front of Nico and watched the kid eat like he wasn't sure when the next meal would come. Can I ask you something? Nico said between bites. Go ahead. Are you really going to keep us safe? Or is this temporary? The question hit harder than it should have, because the kid was 11 and already knew that protection had expiration dates. I'm really going to keep you safe, Rhett said. Both of you. For as long as you need it. Why? Because your brother did something brave, and people who do brave things deserve to be protected. Nico considered this. What did Elio do? He told the truth when lying would have been easier, and that's why we had to leave. That's why you're here, where nobody can hurt you. Nico's hand tightened around his fork. The man who hurt Elio, the one who came to our apartment once. Is he gone? Rhett went very still. Mero came to your apartment? Once, 3 months ago. Elio made me hide in the closet. I heard them talking. Heard. Nico's voice dropped. Heard Elio crying after he left. Rage coiled through Rhett's chest. Cold. Precise. The kind that didn't explode. Just calculated. Mero won't be coming back, Rhett said quietly. Ever. You promise. I promise. Nico nodded. Went back to eating, but his shoulders stayed tense. Hey! Rhett waited until Nico looked up. You did good, taking care of your brother. Staying quiet when he needed you to. That took strength. I was scared. Brave people are always scared. That's what makes it brave. Nico's eyes watered. He blinked fast, looked away. The apartment door opened. Elio stumbled out of his room. Hair messy, eyes red from too little sleep. He saw Nico at the table and something in his expression cracked with relief. You okay? Elio asked. I'm okay. Mr. Calderon made breakfast. Elio's gaze shifted to Rhett. Uncertain, grateful, scared. We need to talk, Rhett said. Both of you. They sat in the living room. Nico pressed against Elio's side. Elio's arm wrapped around his brother like a shield. The woman who called last night, Rhett said. Kiera. She's safe. My people picked her up an hour ago. She's giving a statement to investigators right now. Elio exhaled. Thank God. There will be more. More calls. More people who need help. This is bigger than one case. Bigger than Mero. Rhett leaned forward. I need you to understand what that means. This isn't going to be quiet. This isn't going to be quick. When I make this public, the people involved are going to fight back. What do you mean fight back? Nico asked. They're going to try to discredit the victims, call them liars, make the story go away. Rhett looked at Elio. That includes you. They're going to come after your credibility, your history, anything they can use. Elio's jaw tightened. Let them try. You sure about that? Because once this starts, you can't take it back. I'm sure. What about Nico? Elio looked at his brother. Nico stays out of it. Nobody touches him. Nobody even mentions his name. Agreed, Rhett said. I've already arranged private security. New IDs if necessary. Relocation assistance if things get dangerous. You do all that? Elio whispered. I'm doing all that. The doorbell rang. Rhett stood. That's my attorney. She's gonna walk you through the legal process. What to expect. What your rights are. How we protect you if things escalate. Things are definitely going to escalate, Elio said. Yes, Rhett replied. They are. The attorney's name was Simone Branch, 40-something, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She shook Elio's hand like they were equals and not a terrified Omega and a lawyer who probably billed $500 an hour. I've reviewed your case, Simone said, and I want to be clear. This is winnable. But it's going to hurt before it gets better. How bad? Elio asked. They're going to drag your name through every media outlet they can find. They're going to question why you didn't report earlier, why you stayed, why you didn't fight back harder. Simone's expression hardened. And we're going to shut every single argument down with facts, with evidence, with testimony from other victims who are ready to corroborate your story. Other victims are coming forward? 7 so far. More expected by end of day. Simone pulled out a tablet, showed him a list of names. These are people who worked in Calderon-affiliated buildings, people who experienced the same pattern of abuse, people who are willing to testify. Elio stared at the screen. 7 names. 7 people who'd survived, who were choosing to speak. This is really happening, he whispered. This is really happening, Simone confirmed. And you're the catalyst. Without you, none of these people would have felt safe enough to come forward. The weight of that settled over Elio like a blanket. Heavy, significant. He'd thought he was just surviving. Turned out survival could look like revolution. When does it start? Elio asked. Tomorrow, Rhett said. Press conference at the federal building. 10 a.m. I'll be making a statement about systemic abuse within corporate structures, announcing the formation of protective oversight programs, and introducing you, if you're ready, as someone who refused to stay silent. I'm ready. You don't have to be there, Simone said gently. We can release a written statement. Keep you anonymous. No. Elio's voice came out stronger than he felt. I want to be there. I want them to see my face. I want them to know I'm not ashamed. Rhett's expression shifted. Pride, respect. Then we do this together, he said quietly. Nico tugged on Elio's sleeve. Can I come? Absolutely not, Elio said immediately. But, no, Nico. You stay here. You stay safe. Nico's face fell, but he nodded, because even at 11, he understood that some battles weren't meant for kids. Simone left 2 hours later with a legal strategy and a list of contacts. Rhett disappeared into his office to make calls. Nico fell asleep on the couch watching cartoons he'd never had time to watch before. Elio stood at the window and looked out at the city that had tried to swallow him whole. Tomorrow he was going to stare it down, and he wasn't going to blink first. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Third one today. He answered. Elio, a male voice, shaking. My name is Darius. I heard you were helping people. I don't know if I can do this, but I need. Take a breath, Elio said quietly. You're safe right now? For now. But my boss, I can't keep doing this. You don't have to. Give me your location. Someone will come get you. Silence. Then, you really got out? I really got out. And you're okay? I'm getting there. More silence. Then Darius gave an address. Elio wrote it down, sent it to Rhett. Within 3 minutes, Rhett confirmed extraction was en route. 8 victims now. 8 people who were choosing courage over silence. Tomorrow, the city would see what happened when broken people stopped breaking. When the prey becomes the witness and the witness becomes the weapon, what kind of justice tears down empires? And who's left standing when the smoke clears? The federal building steps were already packed with cameras by 9:30. Elio stood inside the lobby watching reporters set up equipment through tinted glass. News vans lined the street. Photographers tested angles. Producers talked into headsets coordinating live feeds. The whole city was about to watch. You can still change your mind, Simone said beside him. We release the statement. You stay anonymous. Nobody has to see your face. They need to see my face, Elio replied. They need to know this happened to a real person, not a statistic. Rhett appeared from a side hallway. Different suit, darker, more formal. The kind you wore when you were about to declare war in front of federal witnesses. Ready? He asked. No, Elio admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. Rhett's mouth almost smiled. That's the right answer. They walked to the staging area. Federal prosecutor was already there. A woman named Tasha Winters, mid-40s, built like someone who'd spent her career fighting battles other people were afraid to touch. Mr. Vale, she said, shaking Elio's hand. Thank you for your courage. What you're doing today is going to change lives. Or ruin mine, Elio said. Both can be true. Fair point. At 9:55, they moved to the doors. Rhett went first. stepped out into camera flashes that lit up like a lightning storm. The crowd noise swelled, reporters shouting questions, microphones thrust forward. Rhett walked to the podium, didn't flinch, didn't smile, just stood there radiating the kind of authority that made people shut up and listen. "My name is Rhett Calderon," he said, voice clear, amplified, "and I'm here to tell you that my company, my properties, my city, has failed to protect the most vulnerable people who work within it." Silence dropped like a stone. For over a decade, a network of executives, managers, and corporate officials have systematically exploited employees, specifically Omegas, specifically people without PAC protection or legal resources. They used threats, violence, economic coercion, and they did it knowing the system would protect them. Camera flashes went wild. "I'm here to tell you that protection ends today." Rhett gestured toward the door. Elio stepped out. The noise hit him like a physical wave. Cameras, voices, light so bright he could barely see. He forced himself to walk. One step, then another, until he stood beside Rhett at the podium. "This is Elio Vale," Rhett said. "He's 21 years old. He worked as a janitor in one of my buildings. And for 14 months, he was systematically abused by a senior executive who believed his position made him untouchable." Elio's hands shook. He gripped the podium edge. Elio is here today to tell his story, and he's not alone. 8 other victims have come forward in the past 48 hours. 8 people ready to testify, ready to name names, ready to demand accountability. The crowd erupted, questions thrown like weapons. Who was the executive? Why didn't he report sooner? What evidence do you have? Rhett held up a hand. Silence returned grudgingly. Evidence has been turned over to federal investigators. Names will be released as charges are filed. This is not a media spectacle. This is a legal proceeding backed by documented proof and multiple witness testimonies. He stepped back. Elio stepped forward. Every camera in the plaza turned on him. "My name is Elio Vale," he said, voice shaking but audible. "And I was told for over a year that nobody would believe me, that I was too weak to fight back, that speaking up would cost me everything." He paused, breathed. "They were right about one thing. Speaking up did cost me my job, my apartment, my sense of safety. But staying silent was costing me my life." The cameras didn't blink. "I'm here because someone finally saw what was happening and chose to stop it. Because one person with power decided that protecting vulnerable people mattered more than protecting reputations." Elio looked at Rhett, then back at the cameras. "I'm here because I'm done being ashamed of surviving." A reporter in the front row stood. "Mr. Vale, why didn't you report the abuse when it started?" "Because I was told reporting would get me fired, would get my brother taken away, would make sure I never worked in this city again." Elio's voice steadied. "And I believed them, because that's what they'd done to other people who spoke up." "Do you have proof?" "I have bruises that medical professionals documented. I have testimony from other victims. I have security footage that shows patterns of harassment. And I have the knowledge that powerful people would rather discredit me than admit they looked the other way." Another reporter, "What do you want from this?" "I want accountability. I want the systems that allowed this to happen to be dismantled. And I want every person who's been hurt to know they're not alone." Prosecutor Winters stepped forward. "Federal charges are being filed against multiple individuals connected to this case. Corporate fraud, witness intimidation, conspiracy to commit assault. This is an ongoing investigation with more arrests expected." The plaza exploded into noise. Rhett leaned toward the microphone. "One more thing. Effective immediately, I'm establishing the Calderon Protection Initiative, a legal defense fund and employment protection program for any Omega or vulnerable worker experiencing harassment, abuse, or coercion in corporate environments. This isn't charity. This is accountability." He dropped a document on the podium. 50 pages, legal language, binding commitments. Anyone who violates the standards outlined in this initiative will face immediate termination, legal prosecution, and permanent blacklisting from every Calderon-affiliated property and partner organization. His voice went cold. And I have a lot of partner organizations. The message was clear. Cross this line, lose everything. The press conference ended 10 minutes later. Elio was escorted back inside through a side entrance. His legs barely worked. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Simone caught his arm. You did incredible. I don't feel incredible. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal. Your body just processed 14 months of trauma in 15 minutes. Rhett appeared. Cars ready. Back entrance. We leave before they regroup. They moved fast. Down hallways. Through security checkpoints. Into the underground garage where 3 black cars waited. Elio climbed into the middle one. Rhett slid in beside him. The door closed. Silence wrapped around them like a shield. It's done, Elio whispered. It started, Rhett corrected. This is when they fight back. Let them. Rhett looked at him. Really looked. Something shifted in his expression. Respect. Recognition. You're not who I thought you were, Rhett said quietly. Who did you think I was? Someone who needed saving. Rhett's mouth curved slightly. Turns out you just needed backup. The car pulled into traffic. Elio's phone exploded with notifications. News alerts, social media mentions, messages from numbers he didn't recognize. One text stood out. Unknown number. 3 words. You're dead, Omega. Elio showed Rhett. Rhett's expression went flat. Dangerous. He made a call. Trace the number. I want a name and location in 10 minutes. He hung up. They're going to come after me, Elio said. They're going to try, Rhett replied, and they're going to fail. The car turned down a side street. 3 blocks ahead, brake lights flashed. Traffic stopped. Their driver cursed. Accident. We're blocked. Rhett leaned forward. Back up. Take the. A van pulled up behind them, cut off their exit. Elio's heart slammed against his ribs. Go! Rhett snapped at the driver. Now! The driver hit the gas. Their car lurched forward, clipped the vehicle in front. Metal scraped. Horns blared. The van doors opened behind them. 4 men stepped out. Not cops. Not reporters. Hired muscle. And they were walking straight toward Elio's window. When revenge comes faster than justice and protection becomes a battlefield, who draws the line between survivor and target? And what happens when that line disappears? Rhett's hand closed around Elio's arm before he could process what was happening. Get down. Elio dropped. Rhett shoved him toward the floor, covered him with his body. The driver threw the car in reverse. Tires screamed. They slammed backward into the van. Impact jolted through the frame. The men outside didn't stop walking. Call it in, Rhett barked into his phone. Federal Plaza. Ambush in progress. Send everyone. Elio couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Just pressed himself against the floor mat while Rhett's weight pinned him down and the world outside turned into chaos. Glass shattered. Someone was breaking the rear window. The driver pulled a gun. Stay down. He fired twice. The sound was deafening inside the car. Elio's ears rang. His whole body shook. Then sirens. Close. Getting closer. The men outside scattered. Ran. Disappeared into side streets before the police cars screamed around the corner. Rhett lifted off Elio slowly. You hurt. Elio shook his head. Couldn't speak. Check him. Rhett ordered the driver. The driver, older man, military posture, crouched beside Elio. Any pain? Bleeding? No. I'm fine. He wasn't fine. His hands were shaking so hard he couldn't make them stop. His breath came too fast. Vision tunneling at the edges. Rhett pulled him up, sat him on the seat. Look at me. Elio tried. Everything was blurry. Breathe, Rhett said. Calm, steady. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Match my breathing. Elio focused on Rhett's chest. Rising, falling, tried to match the rhythm. In, The sirens stopped outside. Car doors slammed. Voices shouted commands. Someone knocked on their window. Federal agent. Badge held up. Mr. Calderon, are you safe? We're fine. But those men need to be found immediately. Already on it. We have descriptions. Surveillance footage. They won't get far. Rhett's jaw tightened. They got close enough. They were escorted to a federal safe house. Different building. Different part of the city. Armed guards at every entrance. Nico was already there, sitting on a couch looking small and terrified. Elio ran to him, pulled him close. I'm okay. I'm okay. They said someone tried to hurt you. Nico's voice cracked. They tried. They failed. What if they try again? Elio didn't have an answer for that. Rhett did. They won't get another chance, he said, standing in the doorway, expression carved from stone. I'm making sure of it. How? Elio asked. By ending this faster than they can react. Prosecutor Winters arrived an hour later with federal marshals and evidence boxes. She spread files across the dining table like she was building a war map. We moved up the arrest timeline, she said. Too dangerous to wait. 16 people are being taken into custody right now. Executives, managers, 1 city councilman, 2 state representatives. Elio stared at the files. That many, and more expected once we finish processing evidence. Winters looked at him. You opened a door nobody wanted opened. The people on the other side are panicking. Good, Elio said. Good for justice, bad for your safety. Winters pulled out another document. We're recommending witness protection, new identities, relocation. No, Elio said immediately. Elio, no, I'm not running. I'm not hiding. They want me scared and silent. I'm done being either. Rhett's expression shifted. Not disagreement, understanding. Then we keep you visible, he said. Protected but present. You become the face of this movement. The reminder that they can't make you disappear. That's a risk, Winters warned. Existing is a risk, Elio shot back. At least this way I'm fighting. Winters looked at Rhett. You're sure about this? It's not my decision, Rhett said. It's his. Everyone looked at Elio. He thought about 14 months of silence, of bruises hidden under uniforms, of apologizing for taking up space, of believing nobody would care enough to help. And then he thought about Kiera's phone call, about Darius's shaking voice, about 7 other people who'd found courage because he went first. I'm sure, Elio said. The arrests happened fast. News broke within hours. Corporate executives led out in handcuffs. Politicians issuing frantic denials. Social media exploded with reactions that ranged from support to outrage to disbelief. Elio watched it unfold on TV. Nico pressed against his side. Rhett on the phone coordinating security protocols and legal strategies. This is really happening, Nico whispered. Yeah, Elio said. It really is. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Thank you. You saved my life. Kiera. Then another. I'm telling my story because you told yours. Darius. Another. I thought I was alone. I'm not anymore. Tears blurred Elio's vision. He'd spent so long thinking survival meant staying small, staying quiet, staying invisible. Turned out survival could look like standing up and refusing to look away. Rhett ended his call, sat down across from Elio. The city's in chaos, he said. Good chaos, the kind that forces change. What happens now? Elio asked. Now we hold the line, keep you safe. Make sure every victim who wants to speak gets protection and legal support. And we don't stop until every person who enabled this is held accountable. That could take years. Then it takes years. Elio met his eyes. Why are you really doing this? Rhett was quiet for a moment. Because I built an empire on control. And the second I realized people were being hurt in my territory and I didn't know about it, I understood my control was an illusion. Real power isn't about how much you own. It's about who you protect. That's not a Mafia philosophy. No, Rhett agreed. It's not. Something passed between them. Recognition. Connection. The beginning of trust that came from choosing someone's safety over your reputation. I need to tell you something, Elio said quietly, about why I couldn't run before. Why I stayed even when it got bad. Rhett waited. Mero told me he had connections. Said if I reported him, Nico would disappear into foster care and I'd never see him again. Said he'd make sure I was declared unfit. That my Omega status and lack of pack would work against me. Rhett's expression darkened. I believed him, Elio continued, because I've seen it happen. Seen Omegas lose their kids because some alpha decided they were too unstable or too weak or too emotional. The system isn't built to protect us. It's built to control us. Not anymore, Rhett said. The Protection Initiative includes legal advocacy for family custody cases. Nobody loses their children because they're Omega. Not in this city. Not while I'm watching. Elio's throat closed. You mean that? I mean that. Nico looked up. Does that mean we get to stay together? No matter what. No matter what, Rhett confirmed. Nico smiled for the first time in days. The safe house settled into quiet. Guards changed shifts. Lights dimmed. Nico fell asleep on the couch. Elio stood at the window watching the city lights shimmer and wondering how many other people out there were hiding bruises and waiting for someone to notice. Tomorrow, more arrests, more testimonies, more people choosing courage over silence. And Elio was going to be there for every single one of them, because that's what survivors did. They survived, and then they fought back. When protection becomes partnership and survival becomes revolution, what kind of future can be built on the ashes of a broken system? And who decides what rises next? The Calderon Protection Initiative went live 72 hours after the press conference. Website crashed within minutes from traffic. Phone lines flooded. Email servers overloaded. 234 people reached out in the first 6 hours. 234 stories. 234 people who'd been waiting for someone to care. Elio sat in Rhett's office watching the numbers climb. Simone worked 3 desks over coordinating legal teams. Federal investigators occupied an entire floor processing evidence and witness statements. The safe house had become operational headquarters. We need more attorneys, Simone said, exhausted but energized. We're drowning in cases. Then hire more, Rhett replied. Money's not the issue. Capacity is. Where are we pulling them from? Everywhere. I don't care. Contract. Freelance. Fresh out of law school. Anyone willing to fight. Elio's phone buzzed. Message from Prosecutor Winters. 3 more arrests this morning. State level. This goes higher than we thought. He showed Rhett. Rhett's expression didn't change. How high? Elio called her. Put it on speaker. Governor's office, Winters said. Grim. We found communications. Cover-up attempts. Witness intimidation orders that came from the top. Silence filled the room. Can you prove it? Rhett asked. We're building the case now. But yes, we can prove it. How long until charges? Weeks, maybe months. This kind of prosecution takes time. We don't have time, Rhett said. Every day these people stay in power is another day victims stay silent. I know, but we do this right or we lose everything. Rhett ended the call, looked at Elio. This is bigger than corporate corruption, Rhett said. This is institutional rot. So what do we do? Elio asked. We make it impossible to ignore. Rhett pulled up a document. Draft legislation. Omega protection laws. Employment safeguards. Legal representation mandates. I'm calling in every political favor I have. Every connection. Every person who owes me. We're pushing this through state Congress within the month. They'll fight it. Let them. The whole country is watching now. They fight this publicly, they lose their careers. Simone looked up. You're really doing this. You're declaring war on the entire political establishment. I'm declaring accountability, Rhett corrected. They can call it whatever they want. The announcement went out that afternoon. Rhett Calderon, Mafia king turned reform advocate, standing at a podium with 8 survivors behind him, Elio included. "Today, I'm introducing the Veil Protection Act," Rhett said. "Named after the young man who had the courage to speak when silence was safer. This legislation mandates legal representation for vulnerable workers, establishes independent oversight committees, creates criminal penalties for retaliation against victims who report abuse. Camera flashes lit up like stars. This isn't optional. This isn't negotiable. Every state representative who votes against protecting vulnerable people will be voting on public record, and their constituents will remember." The crowd erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Rhett pointed to one. "Yes, Mr. Calderon, critics say you're using this tragedy to expand your political influence. What's your response?" "My response is that if my influence gets better laws passed and saves lives, then yes, I'm using every resource I have, and I'll keep using them until the system stops failing people." Another reporter, "Mr. Vale, how do you feel about having a law named after you?" Elio stepped to the microphone. "They're calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. I just didn't die. That counts." "Maybe it did." Elio's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but he did. "Elio Vale?" A woman's voice, older, steady. "Yes, my name is Lorraine Webb. I'm a state senator, and I want to support the Veil Protection Act." Elio's breath caught. "Really? Really? I've been trying to pass similar legislation for 5 years. Never had the political backing. Now I do. I want to meet. Coordinate strategy. Make sure this passes. I'm just someone who got hurt. I'm not a politician. Neither am I, really. I'm someone who cares. And right now, that's what matters." They scheduled a meeting. Hung up. Elio stared at his phone. This was happening. Laws were changing. Systems were breaking. And it started because he refused to stay quiet. That night, Rhett found him on the balcony. City spread out below. Lights flickering like promises. "You okay?" Rhett asked. "I don't know. Everything's moving so fast. That's how change works. Slow until it's not." Elio turned to face him. "What happens after? After the laws pass and the trials end and people stop paying attention? We keep going. Keep protecting people. Keep making sure the systems we build actually work." Rhett paused. "And you keep telling your story, because that's the part that matters most." "Why?" "Because laws can be repealed. Systems can be corrupted. But stories survive. And your story is going to save lives long after we're gone." Elio's chest tightened. "I don't feel brave enough for that." Brave people never do. They stood in silence, watching the city breathe. "Rhett, yeah, thank you for seeing me, for caring enough to stop it." Rhett looked at him, expression unreadable in the dim light. "I didn't save you, Elio. You saved yourself. I just made sure you didn't have to do it alone." Something shifted between them. Something that felt like trust deepening into something more. Not possession, not obligation. Choice. "What happens now?" Elio asked quietly. "Now we fight, and we keep fighting until there's nothing left to fight against. And then we build something better." Elio believed him, because Rhett Calderon didn't make promises he couldn't keep. And neither did Elio Vale. When justice becomes legislation and courage becomes legacy, what kind of future do survivors build? And who stands beside them when the battles finally end? The message arrived at 3 a.m. Rhett's phone vibrated on the nightstand. He picked it up. Read the text. Went very, very still. "You ended one network. Congratulations. But you just declared war on 15 more. We'll be in touch. The collective." He forwarded it to federal investigators, to his security team, to Prosecutor Winters. Then he walked to the living room where Elio sat awake. Couldn't sleep. Too much adrenaline. Too many thoughts. "We have a problem," Rhett said. Elio looked up. "What kind of problem?" Rhett showed him the message. Elio read it twice. The collective, multi-state network, bigger than anything we uncovered. Politicians, executives, people with enough power to make entire investigations disappear. And you just pissed them off. We just pissed them off. Elio should have been scared. But he was also tired of being afraid. So what do we do? He asked. We do exactly what we've been doing. Keep pushing, keep exposing, keep making it impossible for them to operate in shadows. They're going to come after us. Yes, could get ugly, probably will. Elio stood, walked to the window, watched dawn start to break over the city. I spent 14 months believing I was powerless, he said quietly, believing that people like me didn't matter, that the system was too big to fight. Rhett waited. I was wrong. Elio turned to face him. The system is only big because we let it be, because we stay quiet, because we accept that some people deserve protection and others don't. You're not quiet anymore. No, I'm not. Elio's jaw set. And I'm not stopping. Not for threats. Not for fear. Not for anything. Something shifted in Rhett's expression. Pride. Recognition. The acknowledgement that the person standing in front of him wasn't a victim anymore. He was a weapon. Then we go to war, Rhett said simply. Together. Together. The sun rose over Havenport. First light touching glass towers and port cranes and streets where people were waking up to a city that was starting to change. Nico appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. What are you guys doing up? Planning, Elio said. Planning what? How to make sure nobody ever has to hide Bruises again. Nico considered this, then nodded. Okay, can I help? Elio looked at Rhett. Rhett looked at Nico. Yeah, Rhett said. You can help. Because revolutions didn't happen in boardrooms or courtrooms or press conferences. They happened in living rooms at dawn with people who refused to accept that the world had to stay broken. By noon, Senator Webb's office confirmed votes. The Veil Protection Act had enough support to pass. By evening, 3 more state senators announced similar legislation. By midnight, the story had gone national. And Elio Vale, 21-year-old Omega who'd spent 14 months convinced he didn't matter, became the face of a movement that was dismantling systems that had stood for decades. He sat in Rhett's office watching news coverage, interviews with other survivors, legal analysts discussing precedent, politicians scrambling to align themselves with reform. You did this, Rhett said quietly. We did this. No, you started it. The rest of us just followed. Elio's phone buzzed. Message from Kiera. I testified today. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for going first. Then Darius. Charges filed. My abuser is in custody. I can finally breathe. Then 15 more messages. 20, 50. Stories of courage, of survival, of people who were choosing to fight because someone else went first. Elio read every single one and understood that this was only the beginning. The collective's message sat in his phone like a promise. War was coming. Let it come. Because Elio Vale had spent his whole life being afraid. And fear didn't work anymore. Rhett appeared in the doorway. Federal marshals want to increase security. Move you to a different location. No. Elio. I said no. I'm not hiding. I'm not running. They want me scared. I'm done being scared. Rhett studied him, then nodded. Then we stay, and we fortify. What does that mean? It means anyone who comes for you has to go through me first. Elio's breath caught. Not possession. Not obligation. Choice. Why? Elio asked quietly. Why risk everything for this? Because you were right. The system is only big because we let it be. And I'm tired of letting it be. They stood in the office as night fell over the city. 2 people who'd been shaped by violence and power and systems designed to break them. And decided to break the systems instead. Nico appeared. Dinner's ready. You guys coming? They followed him to the kitchen where the table was set and food was warm, and for the first time in longer than Elio could remember, safety felt like something more than a temporary condition. Felt like home. His phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but didn't. We're watching. The collective. Elio showed Rhett. Rhett smiled. Not warm. Not kind. Dangerous. Good, he said. Let them watch. Because the thing about predators was they expected prey to run. They never expected prey to hunt back. And Rhett Calderon, Mafia king turned protector, had just taught an entire city what happened when someone powerful decided that justice mattered more than reputation. The war was coming, but this time the prey had teeth, and they weren't backing down. What happens when survivors stop surviving and start fighting back? When protection becomes power and silence becomes revolution. This is only the beginning. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter of this story. Your support inspires us to keep bringing you stories that matter. Stories of courage, justice, and the strength it takes to stand up when the whole world wants you to stay down. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters, and together we can inspire change that goes beyond the screen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. And thank you for believing that broken systems can be rebuilt, one story at a time.